Greetings, everyone. Jonathan here from Plagiarism Today, and today, even though it's my first day back after a week away, I'm not going to be talking about copyright and plagiarism news. In fact, we are going to backtrack to something that happened of local importance to me while I was gone. So, yes, right off the bat, this is an issue of local importance, not one that maybe people in other parts of the country will be very interested in. If you subscribe to my Facebook and my YouTube and so forth for national news, I apologize. But like I said, we're going to have to come back and do something of local importance right now. And I also want to preface this by saying that I don't normally do politics. And the reason is, A, I find that, political discussions on social media and YouTube, etc., are pretty counterproductive. And the other reason is because I don't consider myself an expert in most areas that people want to discuss about politics about. I'm not like a finance expert or a civil rights expert or anything like that. I know my copyright and plagiarism stuff pretty well, and I know a few other things, but I'm not well versed enough to the point I'm comfortable giving a political opinion. But there is an exception here, and that is, like I said, this issue of local importance, the tolls on the Crescent City Connection, the CCC, here in New Orleans. And I want to talk about this in the form of an analogy, and I want to give credit as best I can, because I actually first saw this analogy on a comment on NOLA.com, but I've been unable to find that exact comment again, because there's been so many stories on this there that I just haven't been able to relocate the same one. So my apologies to the original person who posted this analogy. I hope you don't mind me running with it and expanding on it a little bit, because I don't want to claim ownership of the idea. But let's go back. Let's imagine you purchased a house. It's a beautiful house, your dream home, perhaps. And like most people who purchase a house, you took out a mortgage on it, and we'll say it was 30 years in this case. But you, being the very good Samaritan you are, the good person you are, you work hard to pay that mortgage off. You scrimp, you save. Sometimes you have to do two jobs at once. You take bag lunches. You sacrifice vacations. You do what it takes to make those mortgage payments. Those payments come first, and you make every single one of them for 29 and a half years. You make those payments. And then at the very end, right before the mortgage should end, right before it expires, the bank comes to you and says, Mr. or Ms. So and so, we've really enjoyed your business. Thank you for being a great customer, and we openly acknowledge you've made every single payment and your debt is more or less paid off. However, we've decided that we really like getting your money, and we're just going to extend it for another 30 years or so. Have fun. And of course, you flip out. You go, well, wait, you can't do that. We had a deal. You can't just, simply change the terms of the contract. And so the bank comes back and says, well, you're right. We can't just do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it to a vote. That's right. We're going to let you vote, but we're going to let your neighbors and other people vote as well. And we're basically going to tell them, and we're basically going to give them the chance to decide whether or not your mortgage should be extended. Well, that's what happens. And of course, the entire time the bank spreads misinformation and outright lies, saying, oh, if he doesn't continue paying it, the house is going to fall down, your property values are going to decrease, all kinds of horrible things are going to happen. And sure enough, even though it's a close race, your neighbors and everyone else vote to extend your mortgage. And it was indeed a close race. That's pretty much what happened here in New Orleans. Way back when the second span of the Mississippi River Bridge was built, there was a referendum put in place in which that bridge would be paid for by a toll on it. And the idea being, if you cross from the west bank to the east bank, you would pay a small toll. Now, admittedly, the value of a toll is not much. It's only $1 if you pay cash, or 40 cents if you pay by a toll tag. But it's created traffic problems, it's created other issues, and frankly, it's not been very good for the West Bank. It's done a great job of discouraging people from coming over here for, to see the things that you have to do here and to eat at the restaurants here. So it's really kind of isolated the West Bank, perhaps needlessly, in many respects. And the West Bank and New Orleans, especially West Bank and Jefferson Parish, would like to see the tolls gone. And guess what? They were set to expire January 1st this year, but in November, they put it to an election. And that election was super, super close. Came down to only 36 votes after the recount. But they voted, inevitably, to continue the tolls. Much to the shock of many people in this part of the state. And we feel hopelessly betrayed. We feel like that homeowner who paid on that mortgage. That bridge that we were supposed to be collecting tolls to pay off has been paid for months now. We were told that once that bridge was paid for, the tolls would be gone, and here there's a vote to continue them. For what purpose? Why are we collecting $22 million in tolls per year? Well, for maintenance of the bridge. Well, that's way more than it takes to maintain the bridge. So what else will there be? Well, they could support the ferries. Oh, no, wait, they stopped that idea. They're not doing the ferries anymore. Not putting that money toward the ferries. I might actually kind of support that. But the idea was simple. We paid through tolls for the bridge. Now that the bridge is paid off, the tolls were supposed to go away. And here's the other thing, going back to that homeowner analogy, imagine if you learned that the reason the bank wanted to continue the tolls is because they were spending the money in very, very stupid ways. A recent audit of the Crescent City Connection funds found that there was all kinds of crazy waste. Insurance policies that weren't needed, no bid contracts, and some of the money was even diverted to other bridges in the state. And, it's frustrating to me. It's really frustrating. And what ended up happening was over the past week, a judge in Baton Rouge determined that due to election irregularities in the close margin, there's no way to determine what the actual outcome of the election was. Apparently, something like 1,000 people who were eligible to vote in the election were not given the correct ballots, were given what are called provisional ballots. They were allowed to vote on federal elections, but not on the state and local issues, and as a result, they were denied their legitimate right to vote. Now, 1,000 votes, if it were a normal race that were like separated by, say, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, that wouldn't matter. That wouldn't determine the outcome of the election. But with just 36 votes, it's easy to see how that could have tipped the election the other way. So now we're going to have a re-election on May 4th. And here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there that say the West Bank residents want something for nothing, and that's just not true. A lot of people say they don't want their taxes to go for to the Crescent City Connection because they don't take it, and I understand that. But here's the thing. There are bridges all over this state that cross the Mississippi River. Only the Crescent City Connection has a toll. Well, it doesn't have one right now. Toll's been halted, but you get the idea. Only the Crescent City Connection has ever had a toll. There's one that was just completed in 2011 in St. Francisville. There are several in Baton Rouge. There's the 310 Bridge and the Huey P. Long Bridge here in New Orleans. There's also the one in Gramercy. All these bridges are paid for and maintained through state funds. All the West Bank residents want is that their bridge be the same as the other bridges in the state. That's it. We don't want something for nothing. We pay taxes. We pay taxes on all those bridges. I've never even laid eyes on this new one in St. Francisville. I haven't crossed the 310 bridge here in New Orleans since like 2007. I don't use these other bridges, but I pay for them and I'm fine with that. I just want the same for me. This is about equality and about fairness. We agreed to a deal. We want that deal to be upheld. So what I'm asking my friends who are in the city is to think about these issues, and on May 4th, go out and vote against the tolls. Vote to abolish the tolls. It's time for those to end. The bridge has been paid for. The funds that were in the account have been squandered. Let's send a message. Let's make it clear. This bridge is the same as any other in the state. That's all we want. And thank you very much for your time. So until tomorrow, when we will return to the usual copyright and plagiarism news, this is Jonathan Bailey, signing off.